welcome to the MLB Strategy Show World Series Edition. Game 1 coming up tonight between the Dodgers and the Rays. As far as I'm concerned, this series doesn't exist because the Braves choked. Not great. Not great. Who wants to watch Dodgers-Rays? Not I. Maybe Clayton Kershaw will get scratched again. That could be fun. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Yahoo Sports. Adam, how's it going?
Good. Excited for the World Series. Excited for my MLB Showdown debut.
Yeah, you and me both. I woke up a little early today, started working on a Showdown sim. Not all that excited about some of the results that are coming out. Maybe it's right. We shall see. We could talk through a little bit of it as we get moving. I know this is an MLB show, but I still have to ask, anything interesting from NFL last night? Did the dueling Monday night games?
No, nothing interesting. Didn't do anything particularly well. The Kenny and Drake run at the end, the 69-yard touchdown,
Nice.
helped me get some money back, which felt really gross, but I'm not complaining about. But yeah, nothing exciting for me.
I had a lot of Cowboys, so that didn't go very well last night. I did have a lot of Drake as well. That helped, but Cowboys, not very good. But this is a baseball show.
I'm pretty sure the most exciting part of my NFL weekend overall is that a lot of my best ball teams have Jerick McKinnon and Raheem Mostert hurt again.
Man,
Which
that's
speaks a lot to
exciting.
how my NFL weekend went.
Super exciting news there. Glad that's going well for you. Be sure to hit the like button on your way in the door, all 50 of you. But hit that like button. And I assume that since there's 50 of you here, you're all mostly subscribed. But please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. That's the big one for us. Trying to bump that sub count up, and my ego wants me to be the best at it. So subscribe. It'd be great. We'll touch on Yahoo in a little bit. We've got mostly like high level stuff to talk about. Let me get my model open here. So you are taking your first crack at MLB Showdown.
Yeah, I don't think I played it before. I know I wrote articles in the past when the scoring was different and they gave like different scoring to relief pitchers and stuff like that. So it was like right around the time I first came over to Awesemo, I wrote a article on relievers, but I don't think I ever played Showdown.
Yeah.
And then now obviously that's not a thing, and I've never played it.
It's weird. I guess it's coronavirus related, but like now Showdown is just normal to me because we didn't have sports for so long.
I don't even think it's coronavirus related. I think it's that so many people that I respect have said that there's an edge there.
Yeah.
And how bad I was at it when I first started makes me think there's an edge there because either I was getting really unlucky or I was just consistently making shitty lineups. So it made me want to work more at it. And now I think that like I can kind of see where people make mistakes, especially in cash games. So I've been playing it more just because I think there's money to be made.
Only thing I mean about coronavirus, and I think you'll agree with me here, is we would probably have basketball right now, and we would not be playing Game 1 of the World Series of Showdown if this was like the first week of the NBA season. We'd be spending 8 hours a day on rotations.
That would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So instead, we're going to dive in and talk World Series, and we're going to talk Dodgers Rays. So let's just do it. First game up, only game up. Dodgers and Rays. 4.2 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3.2 for the Rays. Clayton Kershaw, and it's Tyler Glasnow. And the question is, which Clayton Kershaw do we get today? Is it the one that can pitch well, or is it the one that normally pitches in the playoffs?
I mean, my assumption it's the one that can pitch well. I don't buy into the playoff narrative. The Rays also they're a good team, obviously, but they're not the like typical postseason lineup. I guess like they're not the Braves. They're not the Dodgers. Like they're a more like good but not great offense.
Yeah.
So I think because I mean to me that's what I attribute a lot of the Kershaw playoff issues to is one, it's a small sample size, and two, when you're facing nothing but the best lineups, of course your numbers can take a hit, and then you factor in the small sample size and it looks really bad. So not dealing with as good a lineup as you typically will run into late in the postseason.
Do you have a preference between Kershaw and Glasnow tonight? Kershaw in the captain spot at the very least, 11 or 17-1. Tyler Glasnow 15-9.
I This is weird. So I crunched 100, just my 100 top projected lineups. The top 11 lineups all have Clayton Kershaw at captain. The next 89 have Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I started realizing as I began this process. The amount of points expected from the pitcher is making my calculations look a tad different than I was expecting. I can tell you this. I ran my sim before we got started. Clayton Kershaw in the captain spot 28% of the time. Glasnow 10.5. That's the best that I can do. We have ownership if you're interested. And I think that is going to dictate a lot of our decision-making process for this slate as I get it formatted here because we didn't have it earlier. Ownership got posted, I don't know, 15 minutes ago. Fun fact about that ownership. You know it's free today.
I do now.
Ownership is free, so if you're looking to dip your toe in the water of MLB Showdown DFS, you are in luck. Our ownership projections are free, so go to awesemo.com to check that out. Current ownership projections for the two pitchers at captain. 28% for Clayton Kershaw. Actually, my sim says 27.8, and our projected ownership says 27.8. So, spot on for Kershaw. Tyler Glasnow, though, 20% projected ownership. I only have him at 10. Does that stand out to you at all? Not necessarily my sim results, but the ownership relationship between Kershaw and Glasnow.
Yeah, it seems like it should be more for Kershaw or maybe just less for Glasnow. My thinking being that obviously both of these pitchers are really good. They both can pile up strikeouts. It's still a brutal matchup for Glasnow, and because of the pricing, you're not getting Glasnow plus Kershaw unless you're rostering like guys that aren't playing in our 4K. So, like if you're using like a relief pitcher or something. Um, so you're not in practice, you're not getting Kershaw and Glasnow together. So rostering Glasnow means you're not rostering Kershaw, and you're still getting not great hitters, especially if you're playing him a captain. So it seems to me like Kershaw should be preferred. You know, Glasnow obviously has really good strikeout stuff, but Kershaw's is really good as well. Kershaw doesn't come with the walk issues. Kershaw isn't facing the Dodgers. So I think that if ownership's close, I give the edge to Kershaw.
You and me both. But we're talking about two guys that are only making up 47.8% of the projected ownership, which means that half of the time it's one of the hitters. So now we transition to who stands out to you from a captain ownership perspective, the most owned projected captain right now. Do you have a guess? Have you looked yet?
I haven't looked. My guess would be, well, now I'm looking. It came out too quick.
Stop looking then.
I can't help it. It's in front of me. Yandy Diaz.
Yeah, so the ownership for bats in the captain spot is like reverse of salary. Yandy Diaz's tops, Brosseau, Margot, Renfro, all pretty high. Barely any ownership going to Rosarena, Joey Wendell, Seager, Betts, Bellinger. They're all relatively low. So it seems as though, based on projected ownership, it's pitcher or punt. There is not really a giant middle ground between the two.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, all right, so let's say you go with like Seager at captain. You can't really get a pitcher at flex. Like you end up rostering really bad hitters, maybe having to take a reliever.
Yep.
So that's difficult. But the thing is, too, the hitter like Seager, Betts, or Rosarena, these guys are expensive enough that not only are you foregoing the pitcher, you're still having trouble getting the best hitters. Like it's going to be difficult to get, let's say, Seager, Bellinger, Betts.
Yeah.
Like so it's not like you can just say, okay, well, I'm going to just stack the best hitters, use one of them at captain. You're still not going to be able to do that. So the pricing's tight enough where I think it makes sense that the ownership's either most of the builds are either going to be cheap captain hitter or pitcher captain.
Any bats that stand out now that you're looking at the ownership and you know that everybody's relatively low? Are there any bats that stand out to you as captains you're looking for? And there's a big piece of this that we're going to need to touch on as we get moving into this, and that will be Are there bats that are on the bench that we should be looking at? Are there relief pitchers that we think can be viable?
So as far as the bats, I don't really think there's anything that stands out as being like way too low owned. I mean, I guess you could maybe the really good hitters are being too are a little under owned. I mean, 0.6% captain ownership to Corey Seager is really low. But like I said, you run into the same issues where you're getting basically the same build in terms of the rest of your lineup if you go with Seager at captain, and you're getting a shortstop instead of a pitcher. So like that's a problem, and it should drive the ownership down. But in tournaments, especially particularly larger field tournaments, sub 1% on Corey Seager is probably low enough that you're interested. So from that angle, but in smaller field tournaments in cash, like I just can't imagine getting to an expensive hitter at captain on this slate.
Yeah, I think I agree with you as well. The guys that are standing out most to me, $7,500 Jock Peterson, and that opens up an interesting can of worms in that it wouldn't shock me to see him not play the entire game. Uh, so rectifying that, I think, is very important. Other guys that are standing out above ownership: Mike Brousseau, Margot. That is about it. Willie Adames. So it's looking a lot more like raised bats in the captain spot, more so than the Dodgers, at least for me. What are your thoughts on taking someone that isn't starting in this game?
So the thing that makes that really difficult is that DraftKings minimum salary is 4K.
Yeah.
So it's useful, but it's not super useful. Like if you told me that some guy not on the roster was $400, I'd be interested because you just take a zero there. You're probably going to get a zero from it's baseball, so you can take a zero from a hitter. Spend 400 on some guy that's not going to play, and then actually get good hitters in your lineup. But with everybody being 4K, it's not that useful. Like it gets you, maybe like one more hitter, but I don't really know if that's worth capping your upside, that much. Like I agree with you that maybe Peterson gets pinch hit for later, but is 4K? Are you getting enough for 4K that it's worth one at bat of whoever Kike Hernandez or whoever it may be? And the same goes for relievers. It used to be different where you got additional points for reliever strikeouts and stuff like that, but now you don't. So you have to treat them the same. And like Fairbanks isn't 4K, he's 6K. So you're paying not a premium, but you're paying enough that still matters for a guy that might not even pitch in the game.
So here's my next question then for you. Since it doesn't seem like that is a path that we want to take. Clayton Kershaw's projected ownership in the captain spot, 27.8%. Clayton Kershaw's projected ownership in the utility spot, 21. So Kershaw is projected to be in less than half of the lineups, slightly more so in the captain spot. Does that feel correct to you? Does he feel under-owned in the utility? Same question basically for Glass now. It's the same scenario.
The pitchers feel under-owned to me because, well, for two reasons. For one, this is game one. They're not on short rest. So, and they're both good pitchers. So this isn't what you're going to get into later in the series where the managers are just hoping to piece together 9 innings from like 6 pitchers.
Right.
So both of these guys, should be able to go relatively deep into the game. And I'm double checking the rest thing, but Kershaw pitched on the 15th, Glasnow pitched on the 14th, so they're both fine. So they're stretched out. They should be good to go, assuming that they pitch up to their abilities. And then the second thing is, so there's that. Then when you consider who the two pitchers are, the likelihood of hitters succeeding decreases.
Right.
And then on top of that, it goes back to getting the same builds. You're not getting like you're obviously taking a lower point projection if you go from one of these pitchers to a hitter.
Yeah.
The argument that you normally would make is that with baseball scoring, home runs, if someone hits 2 home runs, they outscored the pitcher, which is fine, but you're not getting a significantly different roster construction by foregoing the pitching just because of how the pricing is. Saving that little bit of money from pitching to good hitters isn't giving you a drastically different lineup. So you're basically just playing a lower projected lineup that you need. Like it still obviously can win. Like if the pitching does bad, the hitters do well, it can still win. But I think that the probabilities of it doing well are lower. And right now, with how the ownership looks, it's probably not worth making that sacrifice.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here. So This is what I was leading you to, hoping that your thought process would be the same. Sim results all looked great from the captain spot. But when I saw 20% ownership on Clayton Kershaw in the utility, I got a significantly higher number for Kershaw and Glasnow in the sim at utility than ownership. Basically double. I had Kershaw at 54%. So in the grand scheme of things, like the total, he was in 82% of the simulations. Glasnow, 47% in the utility spot. He was in 59 or 58% rather of the sims. Both of those numbers higher than projected ownership. Kershaw, significantly higher. So the question then becomes, are we looking at this correctly? Or is that really just the spot that we should be looking? Is Clayton Kershaw in a utility spot sort of the best possible play today?
So I'm trying to just kind of like build out a lineup with him in utility and without him, just to kind of see like what the difference is. Like,
Right.
so let's say you go with Yandy Diaz as a captain, just because he's the most popular hitter captain. So we'll use him. If you're going, so you would, in theory, if you're foregoing pitching, you would want actual good hitters
Yeah.
at flex. So you're going, let's say Seager, Betts, Turner. It leaves you with 7K. So I don't know, Renfro, and then like Brandon Lau, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The thing that I want to see once you do that is how much do I have to give up to get Kershaw? So if I get rid of, like, let's say Corey Seager and put in Clayton Kershaw, I have to drop Turner to, let's say, Chris Taylor. I don't think, unless ownership like moves and more of it starts going to Kershaw plus Chris Taylor is just gonna be project way better than Seager plus Justin Turner.
So I quickly ran 200 lineups, and the only thing that I did was lock Kershaw into utility. A Yandy Diaz lineup came up third, just in raw projections, nothing else.
Right.
Yandy Diaz captain, Hunter Renfro, one additional raise bat, Jock, Bellinger, Betts, Kershaw. I love that construction of a lineup.
Yeah.
Now, I got a couple others with like Jock at captain, similar scenarios, 4-2 Dodgers stacks, a Brousseau at captain, a Renfro at captain. I like the idea of just simply rotating through captain hitters with Kershaw.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird because it's almost, at least with the way ownership is right now, it's like the inverse of what you normally get in baseball tournaments. Like, normally you see all the ownership go to the expensive pitching, and you're just hoping that by finding a cheap pitcher and then getting expensive bats, the expensive bats do their job and you win that way. It almost looks like the opposite right now, where you can get the edge by just rotating through cheap hitters, assuming that some cheap hitters are going to do well, and then take the points from the pitching.
How difficult does it seem to you to actually want to target a hitter today?
Very, like, who are you? Who are you really targeting? Like, you feel great about? Like, Glass now gives up power, and Kershaw gives up some too, but yeah, I mean, both these pitchers are just so good.
Yeah, I mean, even if they weren't good, it's really like I think the pricing makes it so that it's all these hitters are sort of the same, and ultimately you're just trying to buy the best performances. But like to look at this and think I like Mookie Betts a lot more than I like Cody Bellinger. Like these guys are always going to look essentially equal, unless someone has a broken salary. We're talking about low outcome, guys that hit 300.
Right.
Well, it's even more exact. Like it's an even bigger issue on a showdown slate. So just taking a look at ownership, and I think this is really the only way that we can do it. Yandy Diaz, Margot, Brousseau, Jock Peterson. Those are 4 bats that are all essentially projected for 40% ownership. That's exactly where they showed up in my sim. So I understand why it's coming in like that. Is there any way around just jamming in these cheap bats?
I don't really think so.
Okay. Like I look at someone like, okay, is this entire game broken? Not like this game, but like baseball showdown in general. If Corey Seager and Randy Arozarena are the two lowest owned bats.
I don't know why they got away from their original format. Like I said, I hadn't played it, but I know people that did that said it was like one of the best formats that they had, and they got away from it. So
Yeah.
I don't really know why they did, but I definitely think it made the game worse just because of how baseball is. Like you need, I think in this format, you need something, whether it's a lower price floor so that you can make that decision, like in NFL, where you make that decision, like, okay, do I want to punt one position, hope my guy makes one catch and get good players, or do I want to go more balanced? Like, it's at least a decision point. Whereas with pricing the way it is and no bonus for relievers or anything like that, you have fewer decision points in terms of like putting together a good lineup, and your decision points become it gets, I think it gets to the point a lot quicker of, okay, I need to just play a suboptimal lineup because it's lower owned, as opposed to it projects relatively similar in its lower owned.
Yeah, like I look at guys like Betts at 20%, Bellinger $600 cheaper, 12%. Like just knowing nothing else, I just probably want to have more Cody Bellinger.
Sure.
I think they've broken this. It should not be ideal that the most owned people are just simply the ass end of all of these lineups. There's no fun in making sure you get your Brousseau, Margot, Diaz, Jock Peterson picks correct, and hoping that you hit the right stud.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing. Like trying to think through it, you it's fun when there's like a decision point between, do I get studs or do I take cheaper guys that I can get, one like top end guy. But with baseball, baseball is weird because you have basically two different games going on between the pitcher. The pitcher scoring is one thing and the hitter scoring is another. So having pitchers priced remotely closely to guys like Mookie Betts, you're always going to prefer the pitcher.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be making, again, a lineup that can win, but is very far off the projection that of the pitcher. It's not like football where you're saying like you're comparing running backs and wide receivers. Like they get the same scoring,
Yeah.
so it's just totally different. And I don't think it works out quite that well.
I'm very anxious to dig into this a little bit further.
Like off the top of my head, let's say you made I mean, and the thing is, you can't just say like 9 hitters are $500 because that would be stupid too. But let's say relief pitchers are $1,000, and starting pitchers, instead of being 10.6 and 11.4, are 13.5 and 14.1 or something. Then you get into the strategy of, and let's say bench guys not expected to be in the lineup or whatever, 1K also. You get into the strategy then of, do I punt a position and get the pitcher because I can't get the pitcher and good hit and decent hitters. So it's kind of like, do I take just hitters or do I punt a position and take a pitcher? There you at least have a decision point, and the lineups are going to project more similarly. Here, where you roster 5 hitters and a pitcher or 6 hitters, it's just not going to project similarly.
Man, this is deep. This is some in-depth stuff. I like it. I like it a lot. Before we keep going, I want to touch on a few things. One, we've got a giveaway going on tonight. Head to @Awesemo_com. That is our Twitter handle. We're doing a giveaway for Game 1 of the World Series. You can win a year of Awesemo plus MLB. Just have to follow the instructions on the graphic. It's predicting how many runs the Dodgers will score tonight. Depending on how many correct guesses we get, it will be randomized, and someone will win themselves a year of Awesemo Plus. We also have a few shows today coming up immediately after this. So in 30 minutes, NFL strategy, Laffy, Sal, and Ben taking a look at this week's NFL slate. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, Ben will be back with Tim taking his first look at the PGA slate for this week. Zoizo, I think, or is that this? Was that this past week? I can't. Golf's crazy. They just need to name these things differently. Anyway, golf show, 2:30 p.m. And then 7:15, since you're watching an MLB show, this is the most important one. MLB Live Before Lock with Jake and Terry, taking you all the way up to lock for this game. So plenty to do tonight. respond to our tweets at Awesemo_com so that you can potentially win a free year. Watch MLB Live before lock later tonight. So we're going to have a ton of MLB content for you guys. And again, free ownership if you're trying to play and you want to get an idea of what's going on.
So while you were talking, I just started running more lineups using Alex's projections. It took till lineup 268 to get a captain that was not a pitcher. That lineup still has Clayton Kershaw at flex. So haven't gotten to the point yet where we have a lineup that just doesn't have pitching.
How does that feel for tournaments to you? Because I know what that tells me in regards to like a cash game scenario.
Well, that's the thing. Like going back to the ownership, it doesn't seem, and again, this is just kind of a first take on it because I haven't played. I don't know exactly how this turns out, but the ownership doesn't seem high enough on the pitching. So given the difference in projection that you're going to get by giving up pitching, it seems like I would rather just have all the pitching and have all the cheap hitter combinations than be going to the 6 hitter lineups.
So that begs the question, how often do both pitchers fail?
You probably have that answer in front of you.
I don't have that answer in front of me.
Okay.
I mean, I know how often they're not in these lineups.
Right.
Whether I'm right or wrong is a different story, but how, and this is clearly, you can go to Fantasy Cruncher's lineup study and go through a ton of MLB single game slates to find out how often is the starting pitcher not in the optimal. To me, the ownership that I got for Clayton Kershaw seems to be correct. 28% in the sim in the captain, 54% in the sim in the utility. He's in 82% of the lineups, 20% of the time he fails. That feels about right to me. Because an average Clayton Kershaw start is still better than most of the hitters for the game. Like, I mean, I have Clayton Kershaw projected for 20 fantasy points. An average Clayton Kershaw performance is the high end of most of these guys.
One thing to keep in mind, too, as far as what I was saying with projected lineups just all having pitching, that in baseball in general, if you just use projections, you kind of get broken lineups. So I'm not doing, like when I run my actual lineups for tournaments, I'd be multiplying hitter scores by 1.5.
Yeah.
So I'd get a better mix just because of that. So that's worth keeping in mind too.
Sure.
But just using average projections, it's just clearly pitching everywhere.
Right. Yeah, and for anything that I'm doing, I'm not using a normal distribution because that is not the way the baseball scoring happens. But just in a vacuum, I mean, does it even matter that we're distinguishing these guys as pitchers and or hitters in a showdown slate when essentially everybody is the same position? We just have guys that are
right. That's kind of, I think, where the problem lies. They're all the same position here. The score, the pricing between a good hitter and a pitcher is relatively close. And the scoring is just entirely different for
Corey Seager's $1,400 cheaper than Clayton Kershaw at utility. I have Clayton Kershaw projected for 13 more fantasy points.
Right, exactly. Like these lineups, when I'm looking through, these top projected lineups, there are some that are approaching the cap, but some of these have, are spending like $46,000 just because the pitching Kershaw or Glasnow is projected so much higher than hitters that it makes more sense to go them plus any batter as opposed to spending the money on 2 hitters instead.
I'm really anxious to listen to this version of the show in like 3 days when you and I are like, well, man, remember when we talked on Monday and we thought we knew what we were talking about?
Right.
And then we just
and that's obviously huge disclaimer here is we're working through this the same way most of you probably are. Just kind of trying to figure this out. Obviously we both have experience in playing DFS games in general and we know what we're looking at, but definitely not coming at this with the approach of, I solved MLB Showdown in 35 seconds this morning.
I mean, you and I both like to think that we solve MLB Showdown in 30 seconds in the morning.
Yeah.
Whether or not that is a practical answer is a little different. Talking a little bit Fantasy Cruncher related, do you have any thoughts on the most amount of hitters you would want against your pitcher? I know that'd be a popular question for us in Slack.
2 or 3.
Yeah, same.
I don't really
I'm
care
running it
that
for 2 right now, but I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Probably not 5.
Yep, probably not.
But it can
The
be.
thing
It
the
can
thing
be.
with that the thing I always feel about with Showdown though is just with it being a one game sample, and we talk about this with NFL too and NBA, almost all the time, if you try like any suboptimal sort of correlation you end up with in your lineup, it's probably offset by the fact that nobody else is doing that. And in a one game sample, like anything can happen. You could easily have you could easily need Kershaw, or not easily, but relatively easily need Kershaw plus 4 Rays because 2 of them take Kershaw deep, and then I don't know, Kenley Jansen gives up 9 runs or something. Like
They don't even have to take Kershaw deep. Kershaw can throw 5 innings of really good ball, have a normal median 20-point game, and then for the final 4 innings of the game, the Rays just kick the shit out of them.
right.
Like
Right. Yeah,
it could just be that easy. They score their
it's
runs
not the
late.
most likely outcome, but it's not like if that happened, you wouldn't have SportsCenter tomorrow morning saying like for the first time in baseball history, a team went off against the bullpen.
Right.
Like it happens, and the fact that people are going to say I don't want more than 1 or 2 hitters against my pitcher offsets in tournaments where you're trying to be as unique as you can within reason. It offsets the negative correlation in a lot of cases.
So I'm
I mean, you
running.
saw even last night on the 2-game football slate, Ricky D won the Millie Maker. And his lineup, if you look at the individual players, he didn't have any crazy players that went off. Like
No.
everybody in the lineup made a lot of sense. But the first thing I noticed when I looked at it was that he used pairings that most people wouldn't use. He had he had Kyler Murray, he had Kenyon Drake, he had the Cardinals defense. He also had, I think it was Christian Kirk. So he had like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want my quarterback with my defense. I don't want my quarterback with my running back. He did all of it.
Yeah.
And he got a unique Millie Maker win. Like, yeah, I'm sure he's very well aware that there was negative correlation between those positions. But on a 1 or a 2 game slate, it doesn't matter that much. And the fact that other people are setting rules not to do it offsets the negative correlation.
Yeah, I don't set any rule. Not that I won the Millie and I have anything to talk about here, but I don't set any rules on slates like that because ultimately, all that's trying to happen, we know that there are negative correlations, but ultimately, this is just an optimization equation. We know a bunch of numbers. They don't have to have anything to do with each other. The optimal lineup doesn't know that the quarterback and the wide receiver play for the same team.
Right.
So I want to evaluate that after the fact, not stop it from happening beforehand. So I'm up to, I ran like 400 lineups. Kershaw is in, and with essentially no rules, like 1 unique, max 3 hitters, 25% randomness, everybody at 100%. I just want to see where people are showing up. 41% Kershaw in the captain spot, Glass now and Kershaw in the utility, both around 60%. I mean, Kershaw showing up in everything. 380,
Are there
382.
exactly 9 lineups that you can make with Clayton Kershaw at captain?
I don't know.
The reason I ask is because, like I said, so I in Fantasy Cruncher, I clicked out everyone not in the projected starting lineup.
No.
Okay.
I'm up to 150.
Okay, that's weird then.
Did you set a max versus your pitcher?
I don't think so.
Well, then there's your answer.
Oh, yep, it's on max 1. Yep. I didn't set it. It was just in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm up
All right,
to
that makes sense.
200.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I was like my first 9 lineups all had Clayton Kershaw, and now I'm at 910, and I still have 9 lineups with Clayton Kershaw as captain.
No. Do you think you're more likely? How much time do you think you're going to spend on this now today, after seeing everything we just looked at?
I already posted cash games, so a good amount.
I mean, you were going to do that one way or the other.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else can we touch on? So, I don't think that we have any like plays. We don't have picks. We can only speak really relative to ownership. We just got a question from Travis Meyer. Why isn't Choi in the ownership projections? We don't think
not in the projected lineup.
Yep. Yeah, because we don't think he starts. But really just that. Would you be surprised to see the ownership on Kershaw and Glass now at the utility go up significantly in future runs towards lock? And if so,
Not at
how
all.
does that impact you? Because right now, I think you and I are on the exact same page. We're going to have a lot of pitching.
Right. The impact there is, so for one, I already mentioned that if I were running crunches with like the actual projections that I put in to run crunches, I'd be getting more hitting already because I project them higher.
Yeah.
But if the ownership on pitching goes up, then I'm going to be more willing to play those lineups where I say, okay, Corey Seager is really low owned, Mookie Betts is low owned. I'll take a shot on the best hitters in this game at low ownership. Maybe try and get one a captain, play some lineups that don't project as well because the ownership gap is worth it. Right now, the ownership gap just isn't worth it. I don't think. Like there's not enough ownership going to the pitchers relative to how often they're showing up in top lineups. So that would be the biggest difference. Is as ownership on them goes up, you should be more willing to play quote unquote worse lineups.
That makes sense. Uh, Speaking of your games, someone in chat says they're willing to take all of your head-to-heads if you give him plus 120. So shout out to friend of the program, Jake Hari, for being willing to take the plus 120. Good callback, Jake. Fun.
I don't
Anything?
know if
Go ahead.
I'm trying to there's probably nobody.
Listening to the show that knows what we're talking about. Yeah.
Well, that too. I was gonna say that, like I said to somebody this morning, there's nobody. I wouldn't give plus 120 to anyone that either has the money or the knowledge to just subscribe to a competent site and click optimize.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Luckily, the amount of people that don't,
Right.
sizable.
I would give plus 120 to a lot of people that end up in my head to heads, but
Yeah.
they're probably not watching this show to be aware. So
They're also probably not willing to take the volume you're looking for.
right.
They might take you for a couple bucks, and then that's going to go away real quick one way or the other. You almost need to like lose on purpose out of the gate. You need,
Right.
like old Pool, you need to hustle. How can you hustle head-to-heads? That's the new book that we need to write. Okay, so
No.
Jordan Valentino, favorite captain tonight. Has to be Kershaw, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Kershaw.
to me, it's actually Glass now, but that's neither here nor there.
It's Kershaw to me, as long as the ownership's as close as it is.
Oh, wait, I had it flip-flopped. Yeah, it is Kershaw for me. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
you
was
started off the show saying
I
Kershaw.
was thinking that I had Glass now in 20% of sims and he was 10% owned, but it's the flip-flop of that. Because I knew that I had Kershaw more, but I thought the disparity was bigger. Yeah, okay. So it's full stop Kershaw. I think that Kershaw is the best play on the slate by a mile. I think Glass now, at least at utility, is second. Can you build functional lineups with both of these guys?
With neither at captain, maybe.
Let me see.
Like if you go Kershaw and Glass now at flex, go with like Diaz at captain, you have 6,700 per position. So then you can put Jock in, you get 7,600. I mean, yeah, you can make perfectly fine lineups like that.
Yeah, so I ran my crunch, got to 200 and something lineups worth of it, sorted by projection. Number one lineup I have that has Glass now and Kershaw: Jock at captain, Diaz, Brousseau, Bellinger.
Yeah,
Do you care at all about stacking in this?
I don't think so.
I mean, you're just going to naturally have it regardless.
Right. I wonder. It's kind of weird that two pitchers. Oh, never mind. They are. Okay. I was gonna say it's kind of weird that two pitchers aren't like the optimal lineup, but it is. Now that I've made it so I can. I wasn't getting it before because I didn't realize I had it set to max one hitter against my pitcher. But yeah, now my optimals are all Kershaw captain with Glass now.
Let me see what my optimals are. What do you have people coming? 3? Hitter versus pitcher, 3?
I set it at 5 just to see what.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like my optimal has 3.
Let me see what I get from my optimal. My optimal, Kershaw at captain. My optimal's 4. Well, no, it's 3 because Glass now is one of them. Yeah. Kershaw, Glass now, Diaz, Brousseau, Renfroe, 1 off Jock.
Same.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I'm using Alex's projections. So
I'm not.
yeah, I know, but yeah, it's the same.
Okay. Do you have your second lineup there, or our second lineup there?
It's the same except for Margot over Brissot.
Now I just want to see how far we could do this. The third one then for me is Margot over Renfro. So it's that trio of Brissot,
We're
Renfro, and
done.
Margot.
Kershaw, Tsutsugo, Peterson, Diaz, Smith, Glasnow.
Okay, so we're different there because I don't have him in the ability to be in my crunches.
Tsutsugo.
Yeah. So that'll do it. But
yeah, I don't really know
always nice to know that I'm lining up. Makes me feel pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know why he's in the Fantasy Cruncher projected lineup because he's not going to play, I don't think.
Go ahead and uncheck him and run that again. I want to see how close we are. Nah, we don't really need to do that. It's 10:46. We've done this for 45 minutes. We've got an NFL show coming up immediately after this, and it's the goods, man. It's the best show we've got going. They take a deep look into this slate. I'm excited to play this now. Shout out to Yahoo Sports for being the presenting sponsor of the show. They do not have MLB contests, but that's okay. You can play their NFL contests, including the 200K baller. $15 to get in, 15,000 people. That is their biggest contest. I would recommend checking it out. They run lower management fee contests than some of the other sites. They have no management fee contests. So there's a $3 5K guaranteed contest for this Sunday at Yahoo. No management fee whatsoever. What they take in is what gets paid back out. 1,667 people can get in. They're paying back that 5,000 right back out to you. It's not going to get any better than that, people. Go to Yahoo, sign up. This is a spot where you can build your bankroll. This is a spot where you can find a little bit softer competition. It's going to be good for you. Get your feet wet in DFS. Go play at Yahoo. Adam was up on the Yahoo Baller leaderboard on Sunday. Or email.
Yeah, I think I finished 8th.
Didn't know it was happening, though.
No. Yeah. Went to see if Yahoo had paid out because I forgot they even had the Sunday night game on the slate. And I was like, yeah, I got my ass kicked. I wonder if they paid out yet. And I was like, oh, I'm not losing money anymore.
Is there anything else we could touch on here?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just, it's such a weird format. Like, it ultimately is going to just come down to, I mean, like everything, ownership and projections. But if you're changing, like if you change your ownership weights based on sport or contest size or whatever, you should probably be weighting ownership pretty heavily on a single game baseball slate.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just very little reason to, I don't want to say jam chalk because obviously you're playing everybody sort of. I'm fascinated to dig into this. I'm happy that I did it earlier this morning. I'm happy to keep going for it. So let's do this. Who are the bats that matter tonight? This is like a narrative type ESPN question.
Justin Turner homers off Glasnow.
Okay. Brandon Lau homers tonight. That's my pick. I don't know if it's off of Kershaw or not. I'm not that clairvoyant. Adam G says, any no house advantage talk? Nope, not today. They're not our sponsor. That's not how this works. I cannot wait to look into this any further. If you're a premium sub, hang out in premium baseball. I'll probably answer some questions. Adam will probably mute it. We've got NFL content coming up, so I want to cede this over to Laffy and Ben and Sal. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Subscribe to the podcast feeds too, guys. You don't just have to watch our gorgeous faces. You can listen to this just in an audio stream. So you can subscribe to individual sports, baseball, basketball, football, or subscribe to everything. Get every single show the moment it's done. Do that. And hit the like button on your way out. Jake says there will be no house advantage talk on Live Before Lock. Yes, there will, because that is where they are the sponsor. So thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell. Don't hit anything else, though, because hitting things is bad. We're out of here. Good luck. Later on.